But we have also with us Dr. Rehnamol Raveendran. Rehna is now with the Delhi University, but she holds a PhD degree from JNU, and she's been associating with she's been associated with various Ambedkarite movements in JNU. I personally know her. Rehna is, of course, uh, uh, she is teaching at Delhi University. Uh, she holds a doctorate degree from JNU, School of International Studies, and she has a long experience in the Ambedkarite movement. So please go ahead, Rehna.
Thank you, Subhajit, for that introduction. Jai Bhim, very good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank Sayantan and his team for this great initiative. For initiating and implementing this great idea of inviting the like-minded people to discuss or deliberate upon the issues that are pertaining to the young minds of our own community people in Indian university. The attendees and my co-panelists for being here. As you all know that, the problem, being in this community, we all have faced this kind of problem. So I was thinking that instead of just problematizing the things or discussing the problems itself, so I was thinking that I will move on to the solution part. Because I'm not talking to a Savanna, a kind of an audience, to convince them that these all are the issues that been existing. So I would basically looking at the solution part. We all know that, there are overt or covert, reported or unreported discrimination in university campuses. We all know that Rohit Vimla case, that's been a wake-up call for lot of us, for it's been a shaking incident for every one of us. A lot of left student leaders have made their career out of Rohit Vemula incident. But ironically, what happens is that the same left leaders, especially from JNU, because I've been there in JNU and I know that how this left student leaders have made a career out of it. But at the same time, when there is a suicide of Muthu Krishna happens at the Center for Historical Studies, where most of the faculties are left leanings, and they've been silent over Muthukrishna's suicide. And we all know that how he been harassed in the center, which is known for the elitism, the Savanna domination. We all know that how there has been harassment happens. And when Muthukrishna incident happened, all those left leaders, student leaders, who been survived on Rohit Vemla incident, completely silent on Muthukrishna's incident, and Muthukrishna's incident being a responsibility of the Dalit organization within the campus. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need to understand that all those the student leaders who've been drawn from the Savarna community have always been anti-Dalits or anti-Bahujans. And there is no doubt about the fact that whenever there is an atrocities on Dalit students happen, it becomes a political vendetta for the left student organization or for the right student wing organization. It's not that there is a kind of a sense of commitment or sympathy or empathy from this mainstream Savarna student leaders towards Dalit Bahujans. So what we need to understand is that there is a need to have a Bahujan organization, student organization or Bahujan network within the campuses, not only to empower them, but also to produce a kind of a sense of solidarity among the Dalit Bahujans whenever there is a kind of an issue happens. Because I've been there in JNU and I know how the advent of BAPSA kind of an organization, which is of course an Ambedkarite organization, being standing together whenever there is an issue arises related to Bahujan community. So in order to empower them, in order to create a kind of a sense of solidarity among our students, we need to create a student organization across the country. That's very, very important. And if you look at the IITs especially, in comparison to the social science institute, we know that there is completely an absence of student activism or student mobilization in universities like IITs, because it's largely remain as a apolitical, and there is hardly any kind of a student mobilization in IIT. So hence there is a kind of a more rate of suicide or dropouts, because the students in IITs especially, they don't feel any kind of relief or a place where they can reach out to whenever they face the problem, and the only thing is left then is that to just commit a suicide or just to drop out. So it's very, very important to create Dalit Bahujan organizations or network across the Indian campuses, so that we can create a sense of solidarity among our own community students, so that they can stand up together to solve out their problems collectively. So it becomes a kind of a collective responsibility, instead of just taking it as an individual challenge, where every individual has to take up it as a challenge, at an individual level. So we have to make it as a collective responsibility, for which we need to of course create a lot of Dalit student organization across the country. We need to embolden that network among the Indian campuses. And second thing I would like to point out here is that the major cause of the discrimination that I see in Indian universities is, of course, the over-representation of the Savarnas. If you look at the faculties, if you look at the powerful positions from registrar to VC, we all know that it's been occupied by almost all the Savarnas. So this over-representation of Savarnas in academic institutions, from faculties to registrar to vice chancellor, it creates a kind of a hostile environment for the Dalit Bahujans. There is a kind of unfavorable ecosystem existing within the campuses because of this kind of an over-representation of Savarnas. And here comes, and when there is a kind of an issue happens, then it's a vicious circle where even if you try to raise your issue, that becomes a kind of insignificant among this network. So none of them are interested, because none of them feel a kind of a sense of connectivity or sense of sympathy towards the Dalit Bahujans. And this over-representation of Savarnas create a kind of a vicious circle which need to be dismantled. Here comes the importance of reservation, because a lot of the perception is there that reservation is just about job creation, but reservation has a lot of significance beyond that job creation or beyond representation. The representation creates the opportunities for a lot of marginalized people, Dalit Bahujans, to come into the universities and to make the academic environment more democratic, which is very, very important. That to make the institutions democratic, or the institutional structure democratic, or the academic environment democratic, we need to have a diverse representation, or we need to have an inclusive representation where most of the Dalit Bahujans come and then occupy those administrative positions or powerful positions, so that we need to facilitate that environment favorable to Dalit Bahujans. We need to make that environment livable for the Dalit Bahujan students. So it's very, very important to create an inclusiveness or inclusive representation of the Dalit Bahujans, which is something that we've been missing. And also, we all know that 200 roster system, or the implementation of economically weaker sections, how it has emboldened the influx of the Savarnas again into the academic system. We know that how this roster system or the economically weaker section reservation have actually stopped a lot of Dalit Bahujans coming into the university spaces. So this is very, very important. We need to, apart from creating that student organization across Indian campuses, we also need to understand that the reservation is very, very significant in order to make the life of the Dalit student or Bahujan students in the campuses livable. We need to make their life livable. So reservation is very, very important thing that we need to stress on. That is my second point. And if you look at the legal and the the administrative mechanisms in place in universities to halt the discrimination against the Dalit Bahujan students. We know that a lot of mechanisms are in place. If you are looking at UGC regulations, I think Makepeace also have written one article in the Wire regarding that UGC regulations, where the UGC has implemented a regulation, the promotion of equity in higher educational institutions in 2013, and that contains the provisions for the establishment of a equal opportunity cell, and also an administrative officer to halt the discrimination. We know that those mechanisms are in place, but it's not still effective. I think Sitlhou again, Makepeace she has written a piece in the Wire saying that there is a right to information being filed regarding the efficiency of the legal and the administrative mechanisms that's in place in universities. The UGC has asked the universities to submit their action taken reports on their action taken reports to submit what all are the action that the university is being taken. And through an RTI, the information was out saying that only 145 universities have responded to the UGC regarding this action taken reports. Out of 800 universities, only 145 universities have responded to UGC. So that is what their accountability is. So, and also only half of the universities have enabled the web page to lodge a complaint against the discrimination that is existing by the SCST students in the campuses. So that is the sad state of affairs about the legal or about the administrative mechanism that is in place, which is not at all functional. And also the universities have a kind of a lukewarm approach towards that towards the mechanism that is in place. So why am I highlighting this point? Is because there is only to reiterate the significance of Rohit Vemula Act. We been discussing Rohit Vemula Act since ever since Rohit Vemula's incident happened, and lot of the activists or the academicians, a lot of sympathizers have been discussing that we need to formulate and implement a Rohit Vemula Act, which is been somehow been at halt. It's not being taken forward. But very recently, especially just after the IIT incident, I've been in touch with some of the Dalit activists, and they've been saying that they are pushing that Rohit Vemula Act, and especially Rachelle Bharathi and his institution, Center for Dalit Studies in Hyderabad, they are formulating that act, and then they have told me that they are actually pushing that act, and which is very, very important, especially at this point of time. Rohit Vemula Act is significant in some other ways also, because most of the administrative or legal mechanism that are in place, it's just it's not penalizing the perpetrators. We are this mechanism that are in place, it's not, it doesn't contain any kind of provision to criminalize the behavior or punish the culprits. So here comes the significance of Rohit Vemula Act. If we are implementing the Rohit Vemula Act, we can criminalize the behavior of the perpetrators within the campuses, and we can also include the provisions to punish those culprits who are perpetuating discrimination within the university. So in that way, Rohit Vemula Act is very, very important, so that we can include the provision to criminalize the behavior. For example, in IIT, that bloody bastard remark, it's been considered as a misbehavior of a faculty, or it considered as an administrative misbehavior, faculty's misbehavior. So we need to criminalize that behavior. That is very, very important. That comes the significance of Rohit Vemula Act. We all know that as far as the female students are concerned, we know Nirbhaya Act is there. We know Sexual Harassment Act is there. These all are the acts that are criminalizing the behavior against the against the girls. For example, whether it's stalking or staring, this all been criminalized, and then that is being made a punishable offense, and that is also without having a bail. So we need to, in that way, we can say that this the girls in the university campuses are somehow somewhere are protected, but not the SC/ST Dalit Bahujan students. That's something that we have to discuss. So Rohit Vimla Act would be another solution, that so that to some extent we can halt the kind of discrimination that is existing in the campuses. We need to criminalize the behavior. We need to make this behavior punishable. That's very, very important. We have to really work towards implementing the Rohit Vimla Act. And that is my third point. And the fourth point, which I would like to make here, maybe probably the last point, because I don't want to take much time for the other co-panelists also. What is, the broadly, if you look at the existing problem, what I think is that there is one factor that we keep on denying, that the power positions, or in terms of the political power. If you look at in even IIT's incident, a lot of people in power, for example, the Ministry of Social Justice, they have taken cognizance of the matter, but after that we are not seeing any kind of an action from their side. And what is very, very important is that the power positions actually control everything. Even the second point that I have made earlier, that over representation of Savarnas in Indian universities, the over representation of Savarna in universities is the result of the political power that being dominated by the Savarnas, because you all know that in most of the university campuses, the appointments, whether it's faculty appointments or whether it's administrative appointments, are all done by the political parties. We cannot neglect the fact that there is a kind of a political patronage over academic institutions. Because of this political patronage of the academic institutions, most of the faculties or the people who are occupying the administrative positions are the bootlickers of this mainstream political party. So who is at the power? That's very, very important, and where we have to really look at the fact that we need to have more political parties, or we need to have power positions which believe in Ambedkarite ideology. Why am I saying this? Because we have seen how the mainstream political party like BJP's intervention in Rohit Vimla's case, we know how it has played out. We also, being a right-wing government, we know that that's something that been their behavior towards Dalit Bahujan students. And if you look at the left government, in Kerala, we all know that how the two Dalit minor girls being raped and murdered in Kerala, and there was a kind of a mishandling from the left government side. And we all know that even in very recently concluded assembly election, that mother of that two minor Dalit girls contested the election against the Pinarayi Vijayan, who is now the CM of the Kerala. So what I'm trying to say here is that whether it's right wing, whether it's left wing, whether it's centrist parties, there is a kind of a lack of empathy and sympathy towards Dalit Bahujans. We need to promote those political parties who believe in Ambedkarite ideology, so that they come to power, and so that they can make the life of the Dalit Bahujans livable. I think that's a broader point I want to make here, because we've been denying that we've been a supporter of Congress, Congress, left government or right government. So what we are missing out here is that we need to promote those political parties who really, really believe in Ambedkarite ideology, and which is very, very important, so that when the power is there, I think we can actually make a lot of changes. That's something that we've been missing. So these all are the points that I just wanted to highlight. One is that we need to create a lot of Dalit Bahujan organizations or network to create a kind of a solidarity and sense of security among our community students. And secondly, of course, we need to have a kind of reservation policies, which actually makes the academic institution more democratic. And of course, thirdly, we need to have a Rohit Vimla Act, which is, which could criminalize the behavior of the faculties within the academic institutions, and also which make the act that contains a provision to make the make their behavior punishable. That's very, very important. Of course, largely what I would like to say is that we need to have a kind of a political power that believes in kind of an Ambedkar ideology. I think that is my observation. Thank you so much for everyone to just patiently listen to me. Thanks a lot.
I remember that some of us were discussing about the Rohit Act, which basically came up briefly immediately after the institutional murder of Rohit Vemula, but then that did not really materialize. So that's very, very important again, that a Rohit Act for the campus, campuses of higher education, or quote unquote top campuses, top university campuses of India, is very important. And at times, even I wouldn't hesitate to say that criminalizing those offenses are also very, very important.